Your career at Arizona State, unbelievable. 3-time All-American. You are a legend that a lot of guys don't know about. Do you remember when you found out that you were an All-American?
So redshirted my freshman year, switched to DB. They redshirted me, so then I changed my number from 84 to number 7 my second year, which was my redshirt sophomore year. And then I was an All-American that year. I mean, I just, let me tell you, man, I tell people when people talk about football players, like you hear Peyton Manning, how people say he was a student of the game and, you know, he looked at film and he did those things. You know, it's funny, man, I did those same things in college. You know, I wasn't the best student in college, but when it came to studying opponents and looking at film, man, I did it. I did it all day. You know, you know, we got Madden today, but I think I was participating in Madden when I was watching this film of other teams. So I studied teams. I studied players. I watched offensive linemen and how they stand, you know, and comparing an offensive lineman when it's run blocking to pass blocking. You know, I used to look at these guys' hands or the uncovered linemen. I used to study that stuff, and it made it simple and easy for me to make the plays I did in college, because when it was second down and 2, everybody thinks that, you know, or they're gonna run the ball because they're gonna, you know, they only need 2 yards, or third down and 8 they're gonna pass the ball because they need. I used to look at the linemen and go, dude, they're not gonna run, they're not gonna throw it, they're gonna do this, and I'm thinking. So what was really nice is that when I was at Arizona State, the same way when I was at the Bengals, my defensive coaches gave me the green light to do anything I wanted to do. So I just made sure that if I did something, that the other players around it knew what David was doing. So if I blitzed and we were playing a zone, I made sure that that guy that was when I was blitzing, hey man, you're going to drop to the flat because I'm blitzing. And I would call out something or whatever we had the game plan, calling out something. And I think that's what made it so successful for me, is because they never knew I was coming. They may saw me there, but they never counted me, and I just took off. And I remember Coach Shaw telling me, if you go, you better go and get there. Because if you don't, we're in trouble. And it carried on for 3 years, man. And I did it. And then when I got to the pros, Dick LeBeau, he did the same thing. They just said, listen, man, you're you know, I was 217 at Arizona State. I played free safety at ASU. I got to the pros, I'm 228, 235, up to 245, and I'm playing strong. And he just let me do what I wanted to do. And I will tell you, man, a high percentage of the time, I got there and I made the play, or I disrupted it, and it was successful for me.
Interesting. You're at Arizona State. You redshirt your freshman year, 3-time All-American. You have a year left, your senior year, and you decide to go pro. Now, back then, that was unheard of.
Yeah, it was. It was unheard of because the NFL hadn't touched juniors yet. And fortunate for me, and I'll tell you, this was probably a make or break. This was a coin flip, because I wasn't the best student, like I told you, and I struggled in school, and I just got by. And when I say this, I don't say it as Arizona State just passed me, but it was, hey, David, if you pass the class, and then my thought process was, as long as I don't see an F on the report card, I'm passing. And, you know, education didn't come easy for me. So I barely got by. I mean, you know, when I took the test, it wasn't a fail, it was a D, or it was a C minus, you know, and, you know, grade point average wasn't really high, and that hurt me going into my last year, because my grade point average was so low that, you know, 1.8 grade point average going into your last year in college, meaning that I had to take classes that were going to get me A's and B's, no C's, no D's. If I didn't get an A or a B, I was in trouble. And this was going into the second semester, January, that I had to get A's and B's just to get to summer school to pass summer school and then to get for the fall. And I just didn't think that I was capable of getting that done. So I was my fourth year, 3 years of playing football with that 1 year left, the redshirt year left. I petitioned to the league and asked them, could I come? And it was devastating because I didn't get accepted until 2 days before the draft. So there was no combine work. There was no college Senior Bowl games. There was nothing. I couldn't do anything. I mean, all I could do was go work out. And I'll tell you, I was a lazy football player that didn't like to work out. And especially when you had to do it on your own, nobody pushed me. It was tough. So 2 days before the draft, I had 3 NFL teams come to ASU and work me out, the Bengals, the Raiders, and the New York Giants. And my 40 time wasn't good. I was 12 pounds heavier than I were when I played. You know, everything just looked really bad. And I was like wondering if I was going to, you know, have that chance to play in the NFL or the USFL. 1 more year left in the USFL. And, you know, when I heard that, hey, David, if you're there, there's a good possibility we'll draft you. And at the first round, second round, third round was about to go by, and I heard from the Raiders, and they said, if you're there, we'll pick you. But I heard that, you know, 3 rounds ago. And the Bengals called me, and I wound up getting picked 22nd player, 78th player picked in the third round.
I was wondering why you didn't end up a Raider, because you got Raider written all over you.
What, man? I really wanted to play for the Raiders because it was my hometown team. And just the attitude and the nastiness of the way the Raiders play football, I just knew I was going there. When I got that call from the Raiders and they said that, you know, we're going to pick you, because they had to pick right after the Bengals, and they were going to pick me. And I was talking to my family, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, could this really happen? That I could play for my hometown in front of my hometown people and my friends and play for the Raiders? And it didn't happen. But, you know, obviously the last year of my career, I did get a chance to play for the Raiders.